Hello, I'm Lauren Green, and you're in the strategy room. House Speaker Paul Ryan says he's brushing up on all the rules of a contested convention as it becomes more likely that no Republican presidential candidate will get the 1,237 delegates required to secure the nomination. Meanwhile, alliances are shifting among GOP power brokers who are split between those looking to boost frontrunner Donald Trump and those who want to block him. And joining me now with analysis are Iona College professor Jeanne Zaino and Vice President of the Manhattan Republican Party, Brian Morgenstern. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Okay, we want to talk about these shifting alliances. Lindsey Graham is now backing former rival Ted Cruz, saying he represents the best chance of defeating Trump. Brian, what do you think of this?
Hell froze over. That's what I think of that. That's amazing. This election has been the hardest to predict in a generation, and it continues to be so. The one thing that has struck me during all of this is that the Trump supporters see a contested convention as some kind of, rigged situation by the establishment. But the fact is, he can compete in a contested convention just like any other candidate. And if he heads into it with more delegates than anyone else, then he has to make fewer deals than anyone else to get the required delegates to put himself over the top. And for a guy who wrote The Art of the Deal, that should put himself in a pretty good situation. So the fear of a contested convention, to me, is a little bit irrational, except for the fact that so many lifelong activists and potential delegates are not necessarily Donald Trump's crowd. So I suppose there is a little bit of a justification there, but he's putting himself in a very strong position regardless.
Yeah, he literally wrote the book on wheeling and dealing. So, Jeanne, there have been also reports of conservative leaders meeting to discuss a stop Trump strategy. Now, is this fracturing the GOP? Does it run the risk of doing that? And how do Democrats stand to benefit?
It's a little bit too late for that, right? I mean, they keep talking about this and talking about it, but they have missed the window of opportunity. The opportunity to stop Trump was really when he did so well in New Hampshire, and they knew that they could stop him if they could coalesce behind one other candidate. And they failed to do that. At the time, they had John Kasich, they had Cruz, they had Rubio. They had candidates there that they could coalesce behind. And yet, in my mind, you look at the Stop Trump movement, there's money, there's a lot of discussion, and yet nobody seems, even at this late date, prepared to say who they're going to support. If you don't get behind somebody, and that was Mitt Romney's problem when he came out and made that speech, if you don't get behind somebody, how are you going to stop Donald Trump? There's still a very narrow window of opportunity here, and that would be Kasich and Cruz joining together, which neither seems to want to do at this point, but joining together, and around early April, they could move into those winner-take-all primaries. They could potentially get the delegates they need to stop Trump, at least to move him to a fractured or a brokered convention. But I don't know if either one is prepared to do that. At this point, Cruz would have to win 87% of the next primaries and caucuses to get this thing, and Kasich has no chance. He'd have to win 130. So, they've got to make this decision quick, and I don't see that happening at this point.
The math is just not on their side. So, Brian, are we headed toward a contested convention?
It seems to be the most likely outcome, although certainly not for sure. Senator Cruz has pointed out repeatedly that if the party were to, the 55 to 60% of the party or so who are not on the Trump train were to coalesce and he wins the remaining states, about 55-45, he does have a chance of doing that. John Kasich staying in the race is not helping that cause, just as he sort of helped in splintering the vote when there were other candidates in the race, most notably Senator Rubio. The contested convention seems to be the most likely outcome, although it is not unavoidable and it is far from a done deal. And as we've seen time and again in this election, stranger things have happened.
Wow. Jeanne, your thoughts on a contested convention, and, will Trump just end up being the nominee, or could there be a surprise compromise candidate?
At this point, you'd have to say all the momentum is behind Trump, but I agree with Brian. We don't know what's going to happen, but it looks like we could be moving in that direction. And, it's very hard for the GOP, and I think this is, to Brian's earlier point, why there's a lot of fear of this kind of convention, because while it's in the rules and it can be done, it gives them a tremendous PR problem, right? You have allowed all these people, increasing numbers of Republicans, to go to the vote and now you're going to tell them that even though they've lined up in the largest numbers against Donald Trump, that you are going to try to fight his nomination. And that is certainly within the rules, but it is a PR disaster for them, and that's what their concern is, and how that impacts the down ballot races has got to be a key concern at this point.
All right, I want to thank you so much, Jeanne and Brian, for being here.
Thank you.
And you can check out foxnews.com for complete coverage of the 2016 race. I'm Lauren Green, and thanks for watching.